Good evening. I hope you can hear me. This is Tea with a Druid, number 53. This, in a sense, marks the second year. It's the beginning of a new cycle. A year ago, Dave the Bard in the office suggested the idea of doing a live Facebook broadcast, and I hadn't even heard of live Facebook. And I had no idea, and I thought just a few dozen people would watch this, and it's just lovely to see the way it's grown into this wonderful, vibrant community over the last year. And good evening, Richard and Julie and Ellie and Jeannot. Jeannot in love, what a lovely name to have as your Facebook name. And Tuscany, what a lovely place to live, Jeannot. Laurence from the Netherlands, Vivian, Marie, hello. Mervyn, Pat, hey, fabulous. I'm assuming that you can hear me, otherwise you'd be all shouting, I can't hear you. So that's great, that's lovely to know. So here we are on this wonderful time, the 10th of December, and we're moving towards the solstice. And I thought it would be, I've just come back from this wonderful weekend of the Order in Glastonbury, where mistletoe was distributed to all, piles and piles of the most wonderful mistletoe, and bunches and bunches of it. So this is the time of the winter solstice that will be with us in about 10 days' time. So I wanted to meditate with you and share with you around the idea that we use in the Druid teachings, which is this phrase, and I don't know where it comes from. It's mysterious, which is fitting. I think it's probably Nguyen, the founder of the order. Darkness is the fosterer of splendor. That's the phrase. Darkness is the fosterer of splendor. And when I first read that phrase, it was so resonant for me. Splendor, if you think about splendor, it makes me think of the alchemical text, Splendour Solis, the splendor of the sun. Splendor makes me think of radiance, of shining. When you say something splendid, you mean it's magnificent, it's bright, it's fabulous, it's magic. It connects somehow with the sun, and hence the alchemical title, Splendour Solis, the sun. And it makes me think of the sphere of Tifereth on the Kabbalistic tree of life, the place of the sun. And it typifies for me, I think, some of the most important values that I lead my life by. And let's see if this resonates with you. And these values are clarity, radiance, generosity, giving, warmth, all these ideas, heart, all these ideas are connected for me with the idea of splendor. So then you have in this phrase, in this teaching phrase, this short teaching phrase from Druidry, darkness is the fosterer of splendor. So you have this idea of fostering. Well, what exactly is fostering? Well, you know, in the Celtic tradition, in times past, fostering was something that many people, if not everybody, but certainly the aristocracy and lots of people went through. So your children were fostered. Now we use the term fostering as a means of last resort. But in the old days, you fostered your children out as part of their education, as part of a way that they would grow. And if you're a parent, you'll all know of that strange experience of your horrible little daughter or child spending the weekend with another family. And then the parents bring them back and they say, what lovely kids you've got. They're so polite. They do the washing up. They help with things. They're really kind and nice. And you don't recognize your own child. That's being very beastly. I hope none of my kids are watching this. But you know what I mean? It's like you realize that when your children go and stay with other families, it's really educational and it's really interesting for them. And so this ability for different contexts to foster children was used in the past very consciously. So we might use the term now. It's like you might say, how should I foster my creativity? I'm interested in writing poetry. How can I foster that? How can I nurture it? Now, there's a key text by somebody called Martin St. Martin, who traveled out to St. Kilda and the far islands in the west, the Western Isles, the Outer Hebrides. And he went to St. Kilda, which is the farthest flung island of the United Kingdom and of Scotland. It's very far. It was evacuated, I think, in 1952 or 1945, sometime around there. Now there's just a kind of military base out there, but you can go and visit it. It's very difficult to get to, takes forever. The weather's got to be just right. And it's extraordinary. If you have a Google on St. Kilda, you'll see a wonderful landscape. And there he found, even in the 18th century, this is around 1717 he wrote this, I think. Even then, he found that bards were fostering, incubating poetry. They were going into a bothy, which is an old term for a little cottage, little stone cottage. And they would wrap a tartan or a plaid around their heads, and they would close the shutters. They closed the shutters before they wrapped the tartan, otherwise they wouldn't be able to see what they were doing. And they'd close the shutters, then they'd wrap the tartan, they'd feel their way towards the bed, and they'd lie down. And then, as an extra little detail, they would take a big stone and they would lay it on their chest. Sounds an odd thing to do, but try it. Don't make the stone too big, otherwise you might not be able to get up. But if you lay, a couple of big books on your chest, you see it's a very odd sensation. It feels kind of heavy and strange. And what happens is your mind, it's like playing white noise through your ears on headphones. Your mind, your brain gets tired of this monotonous sensory input, and then it catapults you into an altered state. But even without the stone, if you tried, I sometimes, when I want to incubate, when I want to foster an idea, when I'm feeling blank in some way, or I feel like there's an idea that's wanting to come to the surface of my consciousness, but I have no access to it. So I'm feeling kind of uncomfortable, maybe a bit scratchy. I know there's kind of something going on, but I can't quite access it. I might crawl into the bed and put a duvet over my head and create complete blackness. And then I sink into it. This is working precisely with this idea of fostering splendor. It's going one way in order to go in completely the opposite direction. So this is some strange kind of law, psychological law, that sometimes in order to reach this destination, you have to actually go in completely the opposite way. And of course, artists and poets have found this, and they found, which is why they can have such problems with drink and drugs and all sorts of crazy things, because they know that somehow going crazy, allowing the unconscious to throw stuff up, is the direction they need for clarity. So you go into a lack of clarity. This is what I'm trying to say, really, is that although I treasure clarity, the way that I realize I sometimes need to seek clarity is to go in the opposite direction. Does this make sense? Am I talking sense? Do please type here. It'll take a while for the answer to come up. But is this making sense to you, or do you think I've gone mad? But in a way, you see, what a Druid is doing is they are looking at the seasons, and they are saying, this is what nature is telling me. Of course I love the spring. Of course I like the clear light of dawn. Of course I like the warmth of the sun. But in order to get to it, I have to go through the winter. In order to get to it, I have to feel the cold, and I have to feel the darkness, and not fight it, not resist it, but absolutely trust it. Trust that on the longest night, the gods aren't going to desert me, and the nights will just get even longer and longer until there is no more daylight, and I descend, and all my fellow humans descend into perpetual darkness. No, I trust that on the night of the longest night, things will turn, and with the dawn will begin a new cycle, which will lead to longer days, so that the warmth of the sun returns, and I can find warmth and clarity again. So whenever you're exercised whenever you're working in the kind of academic or intellectual realm, this is a really important idea to work with. You know, so at the moment now I'm working on this book on sophrology for a publisher. So I have all sorts of sort of books on in French on sophrology. So I'm beavering away, reading all this stuff. And I'm trying to understand everything and to order everything and to get clarity on everything. And what I would love to do is just to be able to read continuously and to organize ideas continuously and to write continuously. But I know that's impossible, and I know that if I push that, everything turns to mush and goo, and I can't even think straight. So I know that I need to sleep, and I know as well that what I do is when I'm reading, every so often I just close my eyes and I just drop into the darkness. Just drop into the darkness. Just stop trying to understand and just let go. And in letting go, I'm refreshed. Things move into place. Material that I'd forgotten rearranges itself with the new material. And then when I open my eyes 5 minutes later, 20 minutes later, or after I've had a little power nap, I just lie on the floor. I'm reading and it gets too much. I just lie flat out on the floor here and I just go off for 10 minutes. And then I wake up and I come back and I'm able to think again. So, and the same thing applies with emotion at the level of the emotions as well. You know, I guess we so long for all the positive emotions of love and connection and communion and communication and oneness and togetherness and all the rest of it. And in an ideal world, we think we would like that continuously, but it's just not like that. It's a waveform. And so the art is to trust the waveform and to allow ourselves to sink down, to let go, to feel lost, to feel disconnected, to feel in the dark. Yes, it does make sense, says Danny from Brittany. Hurrah. Thank you. Yes, this makes sense, says Mayla. Hooray. I'm not talking nonsense. Fantastic. That's good to know. Thank you. Okay, so this is the piece of theory. How do we put this into practice? Well, let's put it into practice now. Let's work with the energies of the season in the Northern Hemisphere. If you're in the Southern Hemisphere, this works too, because this is a universal law. And it just happens to be kind of easier to go with it when you're in the winter season. When you're in the summer season, you're kind of naturally, your petals have opened and you're naturally in the sunlight and being extroverted and interacting with people and traveling and meeting people and so on. And then as the winter comes, your sort of petals close and it's easier to be introverted. I think it's easier to perhaps allow darkness to be the fosterer of splendor. So let's have a meditation working with this idea. And again, only do this if you want to, and just listen if you like, and then try it again later if it appeals to you. But here we go. So if you like to do this, just close your eyes to better concentrate on yourself and become aware of being in the sacred grove. sitting in the sacred grove at dusk. The sacred grove is a clearing in the forest, beloved of Druids, a safe place in the heart of nature, a clearing. And the trees are around you and the earth is beneath you. And even though you know in your mind that you're just sitting in front of your computer or your phone or your tablet, with your eyes closed, you start to sense how you could indeed be sitting on the earth. And it's dusk, so it's getting dark around you, and you can feel and sense the earth. And it doesn't matter that you can't see it, because you can feel it. And it feels stable, it's supporting you, and you sense all the life in this earth. And you just feel all your tensions, all the stresses of the day just dropping down into the earth. And you're sensing the earth with all the life there, the insects, the minerals and crystals, the soil, the water, all that life in the earth. And you can sense that it's bringing you a sense of vitality and stability. And you take in a deep breath and you let out a slow breath. And as you do that, you feel the trees around you. And again, you can't see them, but you know they're there. You feel their presence. Your brothers and sisters, the trees, fellow creatures on this earth, breathing in and breathing out. And you breathe in their perfume, you breathe in the scent of the trees. And you feel their protection, their vitality, the way they are rooted firmly in the earth, and the way in which they reach up to the sky. You become aware of the sky now, and although your eyes are closed so you see no sky, you sense the vast darkness of the sky now as the sun has set in the west. And you know it's the night of the dark moon, so there's no moon in the sky, it's very dark. But you can sense the vitality of the sky as you breathe in. And you breathe in the energy of the sky. And the energy of the sky meets the energy of the earth within the center of your being. And fully grounded and centered, you just allow yourself to sit in the grove, this darkness, this sense of darkness, and you slowly allow your eyes to open, and as you do this, you find it makes no difference. This is your inner eyes, not your physical eyes. You open your inner psychic eyes within the grove. And you smile to yourself because you see that it's so dark, it makes no difference whether your eyes are open or closed. There's just a warm, velvety blackness of the night. And so instead you start to use your senses, your subtle senses. And you sense the velvety darkness of the earth beneath you. And you just tune in to how that darkness feels in your energy field. Notice how it feels nourishing in some way, supportive. And then the darkness of the forest around you, the darkness of the grove, nourishing and supportive, mysterious. Filled with life, yet life you cannot see. And you breathe in and you breathe out. And as you breathe in and breathe out, you become aware of the sky above you. A deep, inky, velvety darkness. And you start to sense truly within you the meaning of this phrase. Darkness is the fosterer of splendor. And as you look up at the sky now, you start to see just one or two stars starting to appear. Perhaps some clouds have moved away and you can just detect these little sparkles of white light. And you sense how important the darkness is to these stars. Without the darkness, you couldn't appreciate the magic of these shining stars. And then your eyes move towards the branches of the trees around you, and you start to see that there's a bunch of mistletoe. And this mistletoe has got white berries that are catching the starlight. You can feel these little white berries of mistle catching the starlight. And you know that you are blessed by this mistletoe, blessed by their brightness, by their light. And so gradually, feeling blessed by the mistletoe, blessed by the stars, blessed by the darkness, you allow yourself to close your inner eyes, to feel the splendor within your being, the splendor that is made up of darkness and of light. And gradually you allow your awareness of the sacred grove to fade, as your awareness of being seated in your room, looking at your computer or your phone or your tablet screen, and feeling fully centered, fully present, here and now. You slowly open your eyes, and the meditation is finished. So there we are, blessed with the light. Someone makes a point about mistletoe killing the tree. That's not true, as far as I'm aware, at all. Mistletoe doesn't kill trees. And if you've ever seen trees with mistletoe, you'll see the trees are perfectly healthy too. I've seen plenty of trees with mistletoe. And the wonderful thing is mistleberry is used to help in cancer treatment extremely effectively, with different cancers responding to the mistle that grows on different kinds of trees. Apple, oak, etc. all have different properties. Very interesting to study that. There was an article in Touchstone recently about that. So I hope you enjoyed that meditation. This is a time, the invitation of this time is for us to enjoy the darkness, to enjoy the long nights, to allow darkness to be the fosterer of splendor. There's a concept in creativity called not going for premature closure, which means not going for premature resolution of an issue, not trying to sort it out too quickly. Not in kind of relationship work, it's like, don't feel you have to sort it out so quickly. Don't, in intellectual work, it's don't feel you have to get the answer quickly. No, allow it to mature in the darkness, and when it's ready, it will appear. So have a wonderful evening. Many, many blessings to you. Much love. And I will see you again next week. And thank you to Ema and Penny for their last 2 Teas with a Druid, which were a delight to watch. And I thank you to them, and thank you to all of you. And see you next week. See you next Monday. Okay, goodbye. And I will read your comments when I've had some tea and comment on them.